Right then, another A5 video. Now this is not the extra power 400 horsepower video that I wanted to do next. It hasn't quite worked out. We've hit a few little snags that we're not quite sure on at the minute. So we just serviced the gearbox, serviced the engine, did all that sort of stuff after it came off the dyno. I think we'd already done oil and filter before turbo, but it's all serviced and everything now. We just were struggling a little bit with some adaptations on the gearbox, so the clutches are giving us some hassle, like they always seem to do. So we just left it anyway. We ain't had time to do what else we've got the Amarok and stuff like that to do. But we've got a little bit of free time next, well today and sometime next week for the workshop. So the plan we've got is to fit these. So these are the S5 brakes that we had on the old A5, so they're a little bit battered, they want a bit of paint on them. Still got the Pagid RS29 pads in there and just the standard plain Brembo brakes, so we're going to put them in. We have had to swap the engine mounts on the car, 'cause if you look at them, they're all leaking and the engine were moving about loads, which the rubber's quite fairly intact. Normally we've had one in the other day that were just completely disconnected, so it could be worse, but we swapped them anyway. And then we're on to the Powerflex, which this is an empty box because Owen got a bit excited and started doing this while I weren't here. But we're changing these bushers, as you can see. These are all perished, and they're you could feel in the suspension, like that one's tearing apart. You could feel in the suspension when you're driving that it just felt like it wanted to tramline all over the road and doing some weird stuff. So that's them. So if you look over here, try not to trip over the next part. That's the big one. That's what we've got in there. So we've just gone for the purple Powerflex ones. I've got the front ones in there. I think they only do that one in a black series because it gets quite a lot of hammer. I believe so anyway. And then the other bush that we have done, because it was noted that the rear diff were moving, there's some inserts in here, and I don't know where the other ones have gone now. And these at the back here, you just see the yellow ones in here. So these just stop the rear diff moving about. And as you can see, I don't know if I mentioned it before, this has got the sports diff, which we've done a service on that as well, and the oil that come out of this were absolutely crap. So it's always a good idea to get them, if you've got one, to get it serviced. So now the next job, we've got the Bilstein B16 kit. So I've not even unpacked it yet. I'm getting it ripped out. This is the same kit that we had on the previous A5, and it was really nice. It did exactly what we wanted it to do. It worked really well, and it's packaged even better. But again, really nice, easy to adjust knob that just does exactly what you want to do. And a couple of clicks on this is noticeable. So we've got the fronts and the rears in here. So these are the rear struts in here. Comes with a full kit. I'm not sure we need anything else. The only thing we have got to consider, see, easy to adjust again, little red knob there, see where things are. So we'll probably set this about 4 or 5 and then just soften it or stiffen it once it starts bouncing about. Usually you get your optimum dampings when it's sort of just a bit too uncomfortable, and then knock it back a click on something like this. On something like 30-point adjustment, you knock it back 3 or 4 clicks. So yeah, the adjusters are in here. So this is a full coil-over kit, so it's fully adjustable, damping and height. Because the idea with this car, we were going to go for a cheaper sort of just spring and shock kit, but the problem you've got is with the S-Line cars, they're already fairly low, and then putting like a set of 35-40mm springs on is not going to bring them to where you want to be. So that's that. I don't know if the rear spring's interesting to people, but you get 2 of them. So the only other thing we've got to consider on this car, because this has got the drive select, so it's got the electronic, magnetic, damper things. So we might have to do some coding to get rid of that, or we might need some cancelling equipment, which I think you can buy them. But we'll see what we can do anyway. It's not that big a deal, and the shocks on this are past the best, well past the best. So it's not really a big concern that we're getting rid of that. And then from the last A5, this was the best upgrade that we found, especially for the money, because these are, I can't remember off the top of my head, a couple of £100. These made a massive difference because these have got tons of towing at the rear. I think like 7 degrees of towing or something stupid like that. And like when we're looking on our Golf, we're trying to get tow out to get the best turning. Something like this you probably want to go for tow out, but you at least want to get nearer to neutral because they do tow in a little bit as the suspension's articulating. So if you're getting it to tow out when it were articulating, you want to go a bit more towing. But the reason to do that, it just makes the cars easy and safe to drive, which it's a bit strange on even the sporty models that they don't push things a little bit more out, a bit more tow out, because then it'd stop everybody complaining that these cars are understeer monsters. But I suppose they had a lot of problem with killing people in TTs when they oversteered, so they put a spoiler on them when they first came out. But anyway, it is what it is. So Owen's going to get all this stuff fitted, and we'll get it on the alignment ramp, get it all lined up where we want to be. The only thing we've not done on this one that we did do on the old one, we had some camber adjustable arms and caster adjustable arms in the front, but they always gave us a little bit of trouble with the suspension. Always sort of made a few funny little clunky noises, which I never liked. So we'll see how much camber and toe and caster and everything we end up with when we've done this, and then we'll go from there and figure out what needs to happen. So stay tuned in and we'll see how we get on. So Owen's managed to get the shocks on, we've got all the bushers done, we've got the brakes on. Matt's just took it for a drive, and look at the state of the car. It's literally done like 4 miles and it looks like that. Roads are disgusting at the minute, so apologies to the people that got OCD and don't like looking at dirty cars. It's hard to normally drive them anyway, so it makes no difference. But it's all sorted now. Matt said it drove really nice. I think we're on number 4 on the front, number 3 on the rear, on the stiffness setting. I'll go out for a drive in it and figure out figure out where we want to be. If we want to be any more than that, apparently the brakes are a lot better as well. So before I go for a proper drive in it, I've got a lot of suspension stuff off. So we're going to get Harry to come over and we're going to get the alignment sorted. And Owen's got the rear toe adjusters on. He's made them exactly the same as the standard rear arm. So what we'll do, we'll get a measurement of what it was, or what it'd go to if you lowered it anyway, and then we'll get a measurement to what we're going to set it to. Until I see what it is, I'm not going to decide what we're going to set it to. But I think the last one we had about 2 degrees towing or something like that. But we'll set it somewhere around there, because we've done quite a bit of experimenting with the toe settings on the Golf and stuff like that, and it makes a massive difference. But mainly to tyre wear if you go too mad. So we'll see how we go. So Harry's managed to get it onto Super Trackers, and what we have noticed, as you can see, this here, this side, well, it's the other side has got it, but this is what, 5, 6, 7.5 mil toe in, which is quite a bit, and we've got 1.1 degrees of camber. So what we're going to do on this, we'll set it to. Going to go for about a mil of toe in roughly, if we can get it. We'll see what that does. But if you look at the other side, I'll take the camber gauge around with me as well. At the other side, we've got just under 4 mil. So that's measuring the other side. But I'm hoping as well, you can see here, we've got 1.5, 1.6 degrees camber at this side. So I'm hoping that this one we're only going to move it a little bit, obviously, because this is, sorry, we're going to move this quite a bit. So I'm hoping that this pulls the camber in a tiny bit, and then when we move the other one, I'm hoping that pulls the camber out a tiny bit, and then we should end up with even camber, even toe. But we'll see how that works out. And the front end, that's all adjustable anyway. That could have been adjusted by anybody. It's not a factory set thing. We're probably going to set that perfectly straight. Maybe a tiny bit of towing if it tracks about on the road a bit, but to start with, we'll set it perfectly straight, and hope for the new bushes and all that stuff, tighten it up nicely, and it doesn't start tracking over the road. But it's going to be a case of do the rear, go back and do the front, and then put it back and check the rear, because we've got to get the steering wheel straight, the toe straight, and then the camber's all even. So we'll leave Harry to do his thing. Might take him a bit of a time, and then we'll get it sorted. So, finally managed to get out in the A5 with a new suspension on. Didn't think it was going to take so long, but just been super busy doing I'd say more important stuff, but probably not. Keep wrecking gearboxes and stuff on other cars. But anyway, so where we last left it, Harry was just doing alignment, and we're just going to have a look where the rear toe was, have a look where it moved when it articulated a little bit, just to be sure that we're right, that it did toe in more and not towing out, and see what camber was. But basically, we're only about 4 or 5 degrees of toe in this, but whether the arms were a tiny bit short, I'm not too sure, but it did toe in more as the suspension articulated. So I just said the last one drove nice with 0.5 mil, a mil of towing, wherever it had. This one we've gone for 0.5 mil total, so 1/4 mil each side of toe in, rather than toe out. So in a race car you'd have toe out, but on this. We've got a bit of towing just to keep it safe. I don't want back end flicking out at me when it's a bit damp and I'm giving it a bit round a roundabout. And the same on the front as well. We've just gone for a tiny bit of towing, which you can have them with a bit of tow in or a bit of tow out or parallel, but I find when it's parallel, perfectly straight, it wants to wander a bit too much. When it's got a bit of tow out, it's a bit too keen on the turning, and you're going to wear your tyres a little bit more. So a little bit of towing, and then under acceleration, it's going to probably tow it out a bit anyway, as the wheels sort of pull. And then the camber, we've ended up with 1.8 on the front and 1.3 on the rear. Reuben Wacker. So that should be absolutely fine. We've not got the adjustable top arms on this, so the caster is going to be not really any more than factory. I don't think we even did a swing on this, so I'd have to check that, but it's not really important. It's just all been left factory. So, because I found that them camber caster arms, they did help, but they sort of made the steering a little bit heavier, and you sometimes got some weird noises coming from the like the wheels are articulating in a sort of a different way. The sort of, because the shock's more lent back, the wheels more lent back, and the shock's not moved as much. Seemed to bind up a little bit, but anyway, made it turn in nice, but just manoeuvring in car parks, it was bad. Anyway, I digress. So we've got the Bilsteins on here as well. So those at the minute are set to, I think, 4 all round. Might be 3 on the back and 4 on the front, but you can feel the bumps, but it's not bouncing like mad, it's not doing any weird stuff, and it's riding really nice, tracking really nice and straight with the alignment, riding really nice, no knocks and bangs that we had before. And this is got a Miltech exhaust, and so I can hear every now and again that taps away on something, but that's coming off at some point anyway. But it rides so much nicer than it did before. It's definitely not too harsh, not the usual coil of a sort of terrifying ride quality that people seem to complain about. This is no worse than a set of springs and shocks, definitely not. And we can still soften it up a little bit, and when we're on track, I think A5 we had it about 6 or 7 on the dampening. You could have gone a bit stiffer, but yeah, it drives really nice. It's a lot better than I expected. The Powerflex bushes, they'll have stopped all the creaks and groans and bangs that we're getting from damaged bushes as well. We've not gone too mad on that, we haven't changed every bush, we just changed the ones that were gone on this. And rear diff ones as well, they were really bad, so we've done them ones. And we've also done the brakes, so I'll give it a little press. Yeah, the feel on the pedal is just, to say that was the first time I've really pressed them, that was a lot better. Before, you felt like you'd never pressed them, like, until you really stamped on them. So, happy with that. These are obviously just the Audi A5 brakes with the Pagid RS29 pads, so they're not going to take a ton of abuse like the touring car ones did. When you've got a car that doesn't seem to go where you want it to go and doesn't brake how you want it to brake, you just lose all faith in it, you just don't want to drive it, and that's how it we're getting with this. But it didn't fit the schedule to do what we're doing. And what I ain't really said is one of the reasons we've not been doing tons of work on this either, obviously been busy on other projects, but also the gearbox has started being a little bit of a pain. So whether we can get that sorted on, I'm not sure, because I think at the minute we've just gone back to a standard engine and gearbox tune just to rule out the software, and I think it's still not doing what I want it to do, but we'll figure that out. And one thing I've not mentioned, this had the adaptive suspension that you change on the drive select, and that's obviously got the electronics in the dampers. These Bilsteins have not got that, and we've got the the light on the dash. We've tried a few things to code it out, so if anybody knows what we can do to code that out properly, because everything we've tried so far has not worked, just let us know. If not, we'll have to buy some of these little cancelling things, which we've had them on Scott's old A4 before. That weren't too big a deal, but just another expense that we could probably do it out if we can do it with a bit of coding. We've tried unplugging module and faffing about, and that's not really worked. I think I'll go around this roundabout a couple of times and see what it feels like. Yeah, I know it's dry now, so I always like to try this sort of thing in wet. Yeah, that does feel good. That's a ton better than it was. Really nice and flat. Turning's nice and sharp. You sort of get the feeling that the front and the rear are connected nicely, not the usual sort of understeer city, which is still more understeer than oversteer. But sounds nice at least, but definitely need to sort that power situation out. Definitely not as much as I'd want it to be. I'll give them brakes another try. Oh yes, they definitely work. Oh dear. Don't need any better brakes than that on road. So, I think not sure if this is going to be the conclusion of a video or not. Danny will be the judge of that one. But we'll... that's a big pothole, and that didn't even feel too bad. And we're on rubber band tyres here as well. These Yorkies are not as big as I want them to be. I think they're on a 35 profile. I think we'd have got away with a 40 profile. I think they're 30 would have got away with 35, but that's Scott getting excited on his ordering. It's been definitely a successful test. Completely transformed the car. Really, really nice. It's not a cheap suspension kit, and there'll be a link to it in the description. But if you're serious about making the car handle, you want to put the rear toe adjusters on, some Powerflex bushers, and the Bilstein suspension kit, and obviously some decent brakes if you've not already got them. These S5 brakes with RS29 pads, the work. All this together, it's not stupidly expensive. It's probably sort of, by the time you've had it all fitted, probably £3 worth of stuff there. But if you're serious about making the car handle and not be this understeering mess that everybody says that big Audis are, definitely buy this stuff, because we were going to go down a sort of cheaper route if we could just put some discs and pads on and just some springs and shocks, or probably keep the standard shocks and just some springs. But you're not going to get, there's always going to be a compromise somewhere. You're not going to be happy with the ride height, or you're not going to be happy with the ride quality. At least with this stuff, it's all adjustable to the point where you can make it suit your needs. Like if you want to make this even more tail happy, put even more toe out on the rear, and this will rotate like crazy. Just make sure you're ready for it when it's cold and wet. So, bit of advice. Thank you for watching. Any questions, stick them in below, and everything else will be in the description. Thank you.